What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In an interesting turn of events and a new interview with Robert Downey Jr., he seemingly confirmed that his return as Dr. Doom to the MCU is apparently going to be Victor Von Doom and not a variant of Tony Stark. However, I'm not quite sure I'm really buying it yet. Remember, Marvel Studios intentionally misleads us to keep us surprised. This is not a deceptive, or I should say a malicious attempt to keep us in the dark or intentionally lie to us for a bad reason, but it's a good reason. They want us to be surprised, and we are surprised most of the time. But keep in mind, Marvel Studios does this. They put fake things in trailers, or they remove some people from certain scenes in trailers. And again, the Russo brothers are the ones that told us Avengers 4 was not going to be titled Avengers Endgame, and then of course it was titled Avengers Endgame. So again, they're not evil. They do this for a good reason, to keep us on our toes and keep us surprised. But that could be what they're doing here, with Robert Downey Jr. stating that Kevin Feige actually said, let's get Victor Von Doom right. So let's dive into this entire article, this entire interview, and talk about exactly what Robert Downey Jr. said, what Kevin Feige said, and what Bob Iger said about this return. And of course, if you're new and you want to stay up to date on the MCU, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. So this was all revealed during an interview with the Hollywood Reporter's Awards Chatter podcast, in which Robert Downey Jr. was on the podcast. Now, it initially began, the podcast, with Robert Downey Jr. talking about meeting with Bob Iger and Disney about Disney parks as Tony Stark. But then he got into essentially the story of how it all happened to where he has now officially returned to the MCU, making a new debut as Dr. Doom. He states, so probably a year ago, because you know, Feige and I kept in touch, we're pals. Favreau and Feige and I have kept in touch. I'm close with the Russo brothers. We have other business we're doing. So there's this little kind of group of fellow travelers, and I had this instinct that I wanted to go to Bob Iger, and I had an idea outside of the cinematic universe for how I could be of service to what's going on in the parks. And Susan and I were sitting down with Feige, and at one point he said, it just keeps occurring to me that if you were to come back, and Susan was like, wait, come back as what? And Susan is Susan Downey, Robert Downey Jr.'s wife. So even in this moment right here, even Robert Downey Jr.'s wife was like, what do you mean come back? Not as Tony Stark, right? Come back as what? Because we put that story to rest. That was his ending. That was his goodbye. And it was pretty dang perfect. Snapping to save the entire universe, giving us that iconic line from the first Iron Man film, I am Iron Man. That was perfect. So as you can see, they were a little thrown back here as well, but this had been on Kevin Feige's mind. But continuing, Robert Downey Jr. says, and I was like, and then we both realized over time that it was another thing that just disproves any doubt anyone could ever have about that guy. A very sophisticated, creative thinker about how can we not go backwards? How can we not disappoint expectations? How can we continue to beat expectations? And in this moment, he is speaking about Kevin Feige, about how Kevin Feige can do all these things, about how creative Kevin Feige is. And then he goes on to state, and he, Kevin Feige, brought up Victor Von Doom. And I looked into this character and I was like, wow. And later he goes on, let's get Victor Von Doom right. Let's get that right. So as you can see here, this seemingly was Kevin Feige's idea to get Robert Downey Jr. to return to the MCU as Victor Von Doom. Now, pause for a second, because I know a lot of people are going to be thinking this. Kevin Feige was sitting there thinking about how he could so-called save the MCU. How could he revive it after a little bit of a lull? And his idea was to bring back Robert Downey Jr. And yeah, that very well could have been his mindset, but I personally believe that it's a great idea. I believe this will work. Now, as far as it actually being Victor, we'll get to that in just a bit, but to finish this podcast and with what he said, the ending of this states that he wanted to go to Bob Iger. After speaking with Kevin Feige, Robert Downey Jr. wanted to check with Disney's CEO, and he said, so then I said to Kevin, can I go talk to Bob Iger? And he goes, about? And I go, about everything. Robert Downey Jr. continues and he says, and I'd gone to Bob's house, which I don't know how to describe that experience. I've had a lot of really cool experiences. We go to Iger's pad and we sit down and I start saying, I just really want to be. And he goes, I like it. He likes it. I was like, he likes it. So it seems like right there in that moment, Robert Downey Jr. was pretty taken aback that Bob Iger actually liked the idea of him returning to the MCU, not as Tony Stark, but as Victor Von Doom. Now, again, going back to Victor Von Doom, he does seemingly confirm it right here that he is playing Victor. And it seems like Kevin Feige, when he had all of this in mind, he did have specifically Victor Von Doom in mind, not Robert Downey Jr. returning to play a variant of Tony Stark that has somehow gone evil and has taken up the moniker of Doom. And if this is the case, then I can see how this can upset some people, because I have already seen it. I've seen all of the comments, I've seen them on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, etc. But I'm going to maintain that even though they say all of this could very well be said intentionally just to throw us off, because I still say that he should be playing a Tony Stark variant, because why cast the same actor? Why cast Robert Downey Jr.? Why do that? Besides the fact that, yeah, this is gonna get everybody talking. Yes, this could save the MCU just by simply having him back, but to get the same actor that played the iconic Iron Man, the person who led the MCU, to get him back and not play a variant of the character that he played for such a long time, that just doesn't really make that much sense. So I'm gonna stand by what I believe. He is going to play a Tony Stark variant, because to me, that just makes sense. Now, I could be wrong, and this very well could be true. He is coming back to play actual Victor Von Doom, and in which, if that is the case, it still does make sense based off of what we've heard they want to do with Doom in the MCU. According to a recent report from insider Daniel RPK, Doom is going to come from the same universe that the Fantastic Four come from. And they could do a lot with this. They could start the rivalry between Reed and Victor. They could even make it to where Victor has a crush on Sue Storm. There's a lot that you can really do with it, but if he is indeed playing Victor, one thing that I want is an origin story for him. I don't want him to just show up out of nowhere and then be like, hey, this is Victor Von Doom. You should know who he is. I want an actual origin story for him. I want to know if he's from Latveria. I want to know if he knows sorcery. There's a lot of things that they need to actually go more in depth into if he is Victor Von Doom. So they'll have to tackle this very elegantly, which I believe that they can do. I believe that either way, they can pull it off. And I believe that Robert Downey Jr. can pull it off. But if you've been following the channel, been following some of the videos, you know that I think it should be a Tony variant, and then when the multiverse does this soft reboot, they should bring in the real Victor Von Doom. And from there, give us a Doom solo movie or a solo project to where they show us his actual origins. They show us everything. That's what I believe Doom deserves. So if Robert Downey Jr. is playing Victor, I do think they should go into pretty great depth and detail into how he came to be. How did he come to know Reed? How did he come to be the villain, Dr. Doom? I just hope they have enough time to actually set him up properly. But go ahead, let me know, what do you think? Do you like this? Do you not like this? Or does this not really affect you that much? Whether he is a Tony Stark variant or if he is actually Victor Von Doom himself. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments down below. And please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all MCU news. And you can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.